Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Kimberly. Today we're going to do some watercolor techniques and some hand lettering techniques, and I'm going to be zooming in and out so you can see the detail. Today's going to be more about techniques than about my actual process, because this page took a lot more brains than I thought it would, but that was okay because refuge is a concept that comes up. This is Psalm 141, and refuge has been coming up for me for about a week, like every day, a psalm with a refuge in it or something about God being our refuge. So I was like, okay, perfect. We're going to do this. And these psalms that are surrounding 141 and part of 141, there are a lot of like, judge the wicked, do terrible things to the evil. And I'm just like, I think I want to focus on refuge. Yep, we're going to focus on refuge. And praising God's name and all those other things that are listed in the Psalms. Because frankly, I don't know what to do with the Psalms when David rages and tells God to destroy the evildoers. So we're going to focus on refuge today, and we're going to draw some hydrangeas. Now, this was inspired by a book that I have. I've got two different books, one on hand lettering and one on drawing botanicals. This is called Botanical Line Drawing by Peggy Dean. I'll link that in the comments. You can get it on Amazon. Totally fun and makes drawing super, super easy. Drawing plants and flowers and leaves and succulents and things like that. So the hydrangea, one, I chose it because it just looks like a plant that's praising God when it's in bloom. It's just amazing. And if you've noticed while I'm drawing, all I'm drawing is a bunch of teeny little squiggles. So anybody can draw this hydrangea. And if you want to just focus on hand lettering, you can just focus on how I'm doing the hand lettering. If you want to focus on how to draw a hydrangea, you can do that. I kind of am overdrawing the size of these leaves because I was thinking hydrangea leaves are huge. They're a little huge, but I like them anyway. They add kind of a fun little green background by the end that I like. And so you can kind of take this apart and do it all and practice drawing flowers, or you can practice doing hand lettering. I'm just saying, just because I put all these on one page doesn't mean you have to do all this on one page. So if there's something that interests you, like learning how to make these watercolor hydrangeas, well, just focus in on that for today. Or drawing ginormous leaves. Or we're going to paint a little jar at the bottom too eventually. So you can kind of pick and choose. Now, one thing with erasing, make sure your ink has sat for a while, because I blurred a couple things erasing too soon. So here we're going to just draw in the top of a little mason jar. And when I drew the flowers, I didn't think I was going to draw a mason jar. I thought I was just drawing flowers on the page, but then they looked kind of like they were floating in space, and I felt like they needed something. So here's how we're going to draw a mason jar. But the problem is now the stem is in the front of this mason jar, and that's not how things work. So you'll see I'm drawing right over the top of the stem, and that's going to look kind of awkward, but this is where we're going to take my Uniball Signo white gel pen that I love so much, and we're going to use it like whiteout. In fact, nobody uses whiteout anymore, and I'm pretty sure they've repurposed it and put it in these pens. I'm just thinking, because, oh, well, I guess we'll skip back down there in a bit when I paint, but you'll see why I wanted to cover the lip there on the jar. So now I'm just trying to do different kinds of lettering. If you want to learn how to do bubble lettering, but you're nervous about it, just write the letters like you normally would, and then outline the letters in kind of whatever shapes you want. And there you go, you've got bubble letters. I've been drawing bubble letters since the 80s on posters running for class president and things like that. So in high school. So I've been drawing bubble letters for a long time. This one's more of a loopy one that I saw Shada Campbell do. She's got a tremendous channel here on YouTube that's just awesome and inspiring. So I copied my little bubble letters from her there, because mine, I guess, are looking a little dated and 80s-ish. So there you go. Anyway, I just want to give credit where credit's due. And then I've been practicing drawing banners for a while too. And you'll see right here, what I'm drawing in pencil, I don't like specifically. There's a few little details. So when I go in with my pen, I'm going to just correct those details. Like the right side of the banner got a little skinny there for me. So there, I just made it a little bit bigger. And so, yeah, it's just going over it in pen, drawing it in pencil, erasing as many times as you need to. I had to edit this video down to get it in a decent amount of time for you guys. So you're seeing kind of the most of the finished work and not all the attempts and erasing I did. Now here's where I erased way too soon, and it smeared the Lord's name across the banner a little bit. And so I would wait and work on a different part of your page. But you want, before you put these watercolors down, these are the Kiritaki Gansai Tombi watercolor set. And before you put watercolors down, you want to erase your lines, because you won't be able to erase your lines after the watercolor paint is on the page. So, also, I'm using 3 different blues here to color in the hydrangeas, but if you don't have 3 different blues in your watercolors, you can just make 3 different kind of strengths of watercolors. So right here, I'm taking this light blue that's opaque and not transparent, and just dabbing it around. You can see this is really random too. And here's the key to watercolors. They look best when they're a little bit messy and underworked. If you start trying to keep them too perfectly inside the lines and try to keep them too controlled by not adding enough water, then they start to look awkward. So the beauty is in the mess. And how cool is that for a refuge metaphor? Like, we don't have to be perfect. We just can color outside the lines here and just take refuge in God, and he will fix everything, right? So watercolors are kind of cool, because you kind of have to let go of control and let them kind of do what they want to do. And I guess that's a great metaphor for sitting in the refuge of our Lord. So I'm using 3 different colors. And what I was going to say was, you can just, if you only have one color of blue, that totally works. You could do a couple of things. You could take and water it down quite a bit and put a wash over all the flowers. Then once that layer is dry, go back in with some dots of just make the paint a little bit thicker. Don't use as much water, and that'll give different textures. You could also just do a bunch of layers and blot in between, and that will give you some texture, like blotting like I just did with the paper towel. Or you could start mixing a little bit of green into one of the blues and make it a little bit more teal. Like right here, I'm adding a bit of a teal color, and all you have to do is add some green to your blue to do that. So if you only have one blue and one green, you're still good. You can come up with this look totally. You don't need 3 different colors of blue to achieve this. Just need one. So here I'm putting down some green, and this was a happy mistake. I put that green down and went, ooh, no, way too olive. Didn't want that. Then I went, wait, ooh, I like it when I blot it. So I go ahead and keep it, so to add some texture and some color to the middle of my leaf. Just blotting a little bit more up there, because the hydrangeas, I don't want a bunch of pooled water. I want them to look kind of soft and watercolored. Now you see here, I'm using a lot of water in this kind of a pretty spring green color. And I'm just going to kind of let the watercolors do what they do. Because if I try to paint in every single little corner, it just ends up looking forced. And so I just squeeze out water as I'm going, and I just kind of pull the paint in and drop some paint in here and there. Really try to practice that, because if you're struggling with watercolors, it's probably because you're trying to color them like a coloring book. And watercolors just aren't made to look that way. They're made to look loose and imperfect and soft edges and painting outside the lines and just kind of underworked and a little bit messy. So if you want to work on your watercolors and you have a hard time with them, find refuge. Find refuge in sitting with God and painting these flowers that take a little messiness and a little bit of letting go to get them the way you want. So I'm going up here and I'm using this, I love this kind of seafoam green. It's an opaque paint, and so it looks more like acrylics once you paint it on than it does watercolors, unless you really thin it out. But I thought it'd be cute for those bubble letters. And you saw I stamped the letter I up there earlier because I couldn't figure out what kind of I wanted to make. So I just took one of my letter stamps. If you don't want to do all this hand lettering, you could stamp letters in too. And so you could do that. You could just write it. You could write out a prayer. You don't have to do this hand lettering. I just felt like doing all this today. So I thought I'd include it in my video in case you guys wanted to see what I'm doing. So again, here I'm just dropping some color in and dropping some water in, and just kind of, I want to make this pretty transparent here, translucent, so that you can see the word Lord through the paint. And that's why you see me blotting at the beginning there to get a little bit of the water off. And if you do that and it colors outside the lines, it really doesn't matter. It just doesn't. And here on these, it looks like I'm drawing these perfectly from this perspective, but if you look up close, these lines are crooked and I painted outside the lines and they're just not perfect, and that's totally okay. Totally okay. So you can see they're kind of wonky, but they're not too bad. So here's how we're dealing with this. We're taking my white Uniball Signo gel pen and I'm going over this area again of the lip and the mouth of the jar. Just putting some white pen down to kind of correct the pen mistakes. Again, like using it like whiteout really. And then I'm adding highlights because the paint's going to resist this a little bit. And so it's going to naturally add highlights that'll look kind of like light shining on your glass jar. So super easy kind of cheater way to add some light and some perspective. Because I'm still not good at being able to picture where light comes in and making sure you get the shadows in the right place. I just make sure I vary color, and then it's good enough for me. So now you can see as I'm filling in these lines, you can see, oh yeah, if this stem was in a jar, you wouldn't see it on the outside of the jar on the mouth right there. So that's why I needed to get that covered up and fixed so that from a perspective aspect, it looks like the stem is in the jar and not just kind of sitting in front of it on the page. So that's how I fixed that little trick. There's always little tricks to fix things, so don't panic. And always feel free to leave comments or questions about my videos, because I'd be glad to. I love it when people leave comments. I love it when you guys leave a comment, or if you have something you want to see done, or you want me to try to do some kind of technique or use some kind of product, always leave that. I may not have the product, but I might be able to find something that's similar, or it might be a technique that I hadn't thought of that because I love learning new things and being challenged in that way. So if you guys bring up ideas, I'm totally willing to try things. So, and I'm totally willing to be the Bible guinea pig lady, because, again, it's a metaphor for me that I don't have to be perfect at this. I know some people are doing Bibles like to hand down for generations. And I think I might do that in an interleaved one. It just make it super duper special. But these ones are worship, like special as far as the art is concerned. But these ones are these are my way of like hanging out with God and using my love for creativity and paints and pens and color and all those kinds of things. And so for me, these Bibles are more personal than they are like a legacy I'm going to pass down. But again, I think I'm going to get an interleaved, which is one that has a blank page in between every page. And on that, I can do some bigger art that maybe I make as a family Bible or something like that. I have no idea if my sons are going to be sentimental about that kind of stuff, or if anybody's going to care when I'm gone. So that's why I kind of make the Bible between me and God. And apparently you guys get to drop in on it too. But it's between, it's just an act of worship and time to just sit and soak in his presence and see what he has to say and find comfort and show him how much I appreciate this love he gave me for color and creativity. And yeah, so I'm just putting a color wash down on the page behind the whole picture. Here you see it up close. I went ahead and date stamped and tabbed my page like usual. Just thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.